Hello and welcome. I am Scrapperlock, and this is City of Heroes. We are with Mister Eclipse, our Dominator, who has just hit level 39. We have about 1.5 million XP to go to get to level 40. I am using an XP buff to speed things along. So we currently have double XP bonus going for another 48 minutes, and I don't think this episode will be that long because I'm expecting a phone call in about 45. So we're going to do a couple of missions, and today we're going to talk about keeping politics out of the game table when you are playing role-playing games with other people. I think it's very important to avoid that. There's an old saying, two things you should never discuss with your friends or at the dinner table are politics and religion. And I would argue two things you should never discuss at the role-playing game table are politics and religion. Real world politics and real world religion. Not in game, but real world stuff. And the reason is there's way too much of a chance that somebody's going to take offense, somebody's going to get mad, somebody's not going to like what was said, and you have a very high probability of losing the entire game group. So before you talk to somebody about real world politics, whichever way you lean, you should ask yourself, is my stating my position important enough to me to do that I don't mind destroying the game group or losing people out of the game group to state it? If it's that important, then go ahead. But I would suspect that most of the time, the game group is going to be more important to you than politics. So let's talk about what fueled my statement about this. About a couple of weeks ago, as of this filming, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, Luke Hart from the DM Lair made a very uncharacteristic post. There has been some political kerfluffle in the world of Pathfinder that I'm not going to mention here because I want to keep politics out of my videos. And if you go back and look, you will see that there is a comment, a couple of years ago, I think now, where somebody actually said in one of my videos, thank you for not discussing sort of real world politics in your videos. Why are these guys white? Are we capped out? I guess we're capped out on this mission. So this will be really easy. Sorry about that, guys. We're on Cadeo Kestrel, but I guess he can't do level 40 missions. I thought they could still be plus, but I guess not. Anyway, somebody said, thank you for not talking about real-world politics and that kind of stuff in your channel. This way we can come here just to deal with games, and we don't have to worry about that. And I said I'll always try to keep that stuff out of the channel because I don't think that real-world politics and gaming with friends, which is what we're doing here, right? You guys are my friends, and we're gaming together, right, online. You're watching me play. It's not synchronous, but it's a sort of we're asynchronously gaming together. And I don't think that gaming together mixes well with politics. And I've always kept it out of my game groups. Thankfully, everyone I play with feels the same way, so I haven't really had to worry about that. And I've been able to avoid having real-world politics pollute my game groups, but Luke Hart kind of stepped in it a little bit, and he really didn't do anything wrong, except that he forgot the rule to keep politics out of the game, including your gaming channel. So we're not going to take any political positions, right? I'm not going to talk about the right or the left or who's right or wrong in political sense. What we're going to talk about is why you should keep that stuff out of your game. So, again, some real-world political stuff happened in regard to Pathfinder. I'm not going to state what it was. If you're following things you may already know, please don't even talk about it in the comments because I don't want to talk about that specific issue. But because of that issue, Luke decided to make a post. It's a short post on his channel talking about why you should keep politics out of games. But he used this real-world political example as his example. And that caused a whole bunch of people to get mad at him and a whole bunch of flame wars to go on in his channel. And enough of it happened that Luke felt the need to go back to his channel a week later and post a clarifying video. Guys, when you're posting a clarifying video, it's already too late. The trouble has already happened. So I don't know if this is going to cause permanent damage to Luke's channel, but I wouldn't be surprised if he's already lost possibly hundreds or even a couple of thousand subscribers because he dared to make a statement about politics that was perceived to be in opposition to the position that some of his audience has. And I don't think it really was. I think what he was trying to do was say keep the politics out of the game, but because he used real world politics to talk about it, well, you know, people then took positions, whether you're to the right or to the left, and they started arguing with each other, and it started a bit of a flame war, and it was bad enough that Luke had to try to make a clarifying post, which I'm not sure if it, usually when that happens, it doesn't do any good. Like I've been in public situations where I'm, in getting into it with a whole bunch of people like that, but I've been on like forums for guilds and stuff and made a statement that upset a couple of people or maybe a handful of people. And whenever you're in a position to make a clarifying post about something like that, it's kind of you're already done. You can maybe say I'm sorry, mea culpa, maybe, but if you're trying to explain it, you're kind of done. In my experience, it's very hard to fix it at that point. And that's what happens in a game group. And so what I tried to say, and then somebody decided to flame me over it, but I don't really care, was that, Luke got on to clarify it and maybe admit he was wrong. I don't know what he said. I don't remember what he said in the clarifying video, but what I said was I actually think that misses the point, because the point is that like what happened to his channel and everybody arguing and possibly subscribers leaving and people flaming each other, that's what happens to your game group when you don't follow the rule of keeping politics out of the game. Right? Well, it was an object lesson in why you need to do this. Keep politics out of it. Because if you don't, there's a huge risk, right? When I don't know if he realized it, he probably did. When Luke made the post, he was taking a huge risk. And I would say it wasn't even a risk, it was a virtual certainty. It was an actual certainty that there was going to be a whole blow up. Because that's what's going to happen when you have a bunch of strangers who have more investment in their politics than they have in the channel, right? In an actual game group where you have real life friends, maybe not. But when you have 200,000 subscribers or something, how invested are these people, and how interested are they in making sure that they don't mess up your channel, right? And fortunately, the few people who watch and listen to this channel, you guys control yourselves really well, and I generally don't have to moderate it or anything like that. And I'm hitting the wrong buttons here. But on a big channel where there are thousands and thousands of people, you're going to get people who are going to fight about this stuff. So what I'm trying to say is, guys, just avoid it. Don't talk about real world politics. Don't discuss it. Don't get into it. Just don't say anything unless you are very, very sure. And you can almost never be sure unless you are very, very sure that nobody's going to get offended and leave the group or leave the table, right? Even if you guys all walk around with wearing the same baseball hats with the same political slogan on it, and you all think that you're in the same political party, there can still be individual differences. There will be individual differences among people, and as a consequence, even two people who are working for the same politician's campaign might get mad at each other over political issues. Keep it out of the game. If you want to have an argument over how endurance works in Champions. If you want to have an argument over bonus actions and whether you can do more than one in D&D. You can't. But have an argument about that. Have an argument about how counterspell works. That's an argument to have at the gaming table. Not an argument about real world politics and real world political issues. It is very much more likely that you're going to have a breakup of the game group over real world politics than over a DM's ruling about counterspell. Game groups almost never break up over that. but they do break up over people disagreeing about politics, and it's a huge risk. So I just want to kind of point that out. It's an object lesson to just go and read the comments in that short video that Luke posted. It's ugly, or at least it was the last time I looked. Maybe they've moderated it, but it was getting really ugly. And I even tried to, post like something slightly humorous and actually true. And I forgot to summon my pet. And a bunch of people liked that. But it didn't diffuse the situation. I was trying to help them out a little bit, but it didn't really diffuse the situation because all the people who were bound and determined to be offended and getting angry at this, mostly because they feel like Luke didn't agree with their politics, and so they got mad at him. Like, those people, I couldn't diffuse anything by just putting a little bit of humor in there. So I would urge everyone to use a severe level of caution before you inject real world politics into a game. I have seen it destroy guilds in role playing games. I have seen it destroy friendships. I've never seen it, thankfully, destroy a role playing game group because none of my groups really had that as a problem. But because we almost never talked real world politics, we're smart enough to avoid it. But yeah, it can wreck friendships, and bad enough that it can wreck friendships, but it can wreck the game, it can wreck the campaign, it can make it so that you guys can't play together again. And look, it's hard enough. It is hard enough to find a good group of gamers who are interested in role playing games. Many of you know how hard it is to find a game group in your local town, right? So it's hard enough to find a game group. Hard enough to find a game group of people who all want to play the same game together, right? So A, it's hard to find a game group. B, it's doubly hard to find a group that not just wants to play games, but wants to play the same game. C, even harder to find a group that can all meet at the same time on a regular basis every week or every other week, right? If you are lucky enough to find and then the same play style that likes the same things out of the game, right? So you're playing role-playing games, you're playing D&D, let's say, you all want the same thing out of D&D, which is mostly combat and not a lot of talky, right? And you can all meet out on Wednesdays, right? It is so hard to find some group that is at the intersection of all of those things that if you can find it, you definitely don't want to throw it away by talking about real-world politics. You may never find another group like that. It may be the end of playing D&D at all, right? So if you're lucky enough to have found a game group and a group of people that you really like, a group of people that gets together and likes to play the game and agrees on the gaming stuff, don't even talk about politics. Don't risk it. That's my advice, right? And I think that what happened in the comments section of the video that Luke made is a beautiful example of why, because you had this group of people who were all reading the same channel, and if you look at his comments, there's not a lot of flame wars or anything in most of his comment sections, and all he does is post something that was only mildly political, really, and it was a flame war. And I would bet that my guess would be Luke Hart's channel has probably gained subscribers every single month for like 3 or 4 years, if not longer. However long he's been popular. Years. Dozens of months in a row. 30, 40, 50 months in a row. Every month, his numbers have gone up a little bit in subs. And I would bet that this month, or last month, when he shot this video, whoops, I shouldn't bother to do the mind control here. These guys are immune to it. Last month, whenever he shot the video and posted it, is probably going to be the first time. I mean, I haven't looked at his stats. I don't really know. Maybe I'm wrong about this, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's the first time in, 30 or 40 months that he's actually got fewer subscribers than he had the month before. Because a bunch of people are mad, and a bunch of people said they were going to unsub and stuff like that. And I mean, obviously, people who post it, there's only a dozen of them or something, right? But everybody who posts something like that, there are tens to hundreds of people who are thinking the same way and just aren't going to post anything. And so, when you see the mess that was made over just referencing a real-world political situation, not even taking an actual position on it, just referencing it. Um, it's just such a mess when that happens. So my advice to you is don't do it. If you value your game group and you want to stay together and you want to keep playing Champions or Savage Worlds together with each other, you want to keep playing Call of Cthulhu, you're enjoying it, just stay away from real world political topics. Stay away from real world social issues. Just avoid anything that's a modern, current day, like current event type deal, unless you're really, really sure that your whole group is in agreement, or unless you have a bunch of really grown up people who can handle it, which most folks cannot. Okay? I mean, I happen to work in a profession that is prone to having people who have very strong political views that are not necessarily aligned with mine. And I've had to learn over the last, 20 years or more of my life how to live with and be respectful of and collaborate with people whose opinions I may not agree with, including, by the way, not even political, just like people I don't agree with their take on education. But I've managed to still work with them. But not everybody can do that. And sometimes people really just can't handle it when other folks don't agree with their political or social take on things. And so you never know when you're dealing with someone who can't handle the um, the opposite view and is going to get offended by it until it's too late. So my advice is just stay away from it. Don't discuss politics or religion, real world politics or real world religion at the gaming table. Now that's real world only. I'm not talking about in-game politics, right? If City of Heroes has a mission, a story arc where there's some sort of an evil mayor who's hurting Paragon City and you're trying to stop the mayor from doing that, that's perfectly fine. That's actually fun. And that's great. It's the real world stuff that we're talking about. So one person in absolutely being completely disingenuous in Luke's comment section, and this comment, I couldn't find it again. I went to look at the exact quote because I responded to it. And I guess it got moderated maybe for whatever else was happening in the thread, or I don't think it was anything I said. But this person wrote and said, "Oh, you say to keep the politics out of gaming, but what happens when you have like the political intrigue in the castle and stuff like that?" That's an absurd statement. We're talking about real world political conversations and real world religion, not the fictional stuff in your game world, right? You're not supposed to talk about real religion at the dinner table or at the gaming table, but you can talk about Zeus and Thor, or the gods of the Forgotten Realms, no problem. That is fodder for the game table. Similarly, if you have some kind of a Game of Thrones-esque campaign where the characters are maybe working for one king who's trying to usurp the throne of another king, right? Then that's pretty cool, and I don't think anybody objects to that. We're talking about the real world stuff. So, yeah, put all of the fictional politics you want in your game. But I would say, as a game master, be very careful not to be sort of allegorical of. What are we doing here? Are we not going to get story arc from him? Maybe. Oh, we got time mission. All right, this will be our last mission for today. So let's go ahead and just teleport to it since we don't run out of time. Not that we probably would. Be very careful when you're a GM and you're crafting your world and your storylines, your plot points, whatever you're doing. Try to be careful not to have direct one-to-one allegory or analogy to real-world politics, right? Either do something, historical from 200 years ago that nobody has a stake in, right? Or 500 years ago. Something from ancient Rome or what have you, where nobody's going to get upset about your allegory to ancient Rome or ancient Greece, probably. Either do that or just make it up whole cloth. If you start trying to create like a one-to-one correspondence between something happening in your game world and and the real world, then you have this problem that um, that your own personal view on the political issues might come through, and again, you run the risk of potentially offending people. So be careful with that. And again, my advice is to just avoid it altogether. Let's give you some fear here, since you're being a little annoying. I don't know if any of them are afraid or not. Yeah, these guys are going to kill my recharge rate. So yeah, I mean, obviously, I I can't tell people what to do, but my advice is very strongly to avoid the real world politics. And I think Luke's YouTube channel is a good lesson as to why. How did you guys aggro to me? Is this a patrol? Yeah, they're beating up my wolf a little bit there. So again, yeah, I don't want to talk about any of the actual political stuff. You know, my channel, I'm more than happy to talk about like Wizards of the Coast politics. You know, like the crap going on in their company. That's fair game. This is a gaming channel, and we could talk about that. But I don't want to talk about the real world politics outside of gaming. Oh boy. Let's dominate here, because I think we're gonna need that. And let's call up our reinforcements. Yeah, they're hurting my wolf too. I have way over aggroed. So that's the gist of what I wanted to talk about today, but we have a little bit of time as we do this mission, so let's actually talk about gaming. And what are you doing, Wolf? Let's actually talk about gaming and what's going on in the gaming world. So I ended up, I don't know how this happened. So let me tell you a story. It's story time with Scrapperlock. So back in 2000, oh boy. Oh, we freed you. Okay, are you going to come with me? You going to help me, or no, you just walked away? Story time with Scrapperlock. Back in 2008, 2009, I believe it was. I had a desktop that I had bought in 05, and it was getting rather old. And to get a desktop with really good graphics card and gaming ability in 09 was going to be relatively expensive. And on the other hand, the Xbox 360 was relatively new, I think, at that point. And maybe this is 08. The Xbox 360 was relatively new. And it had better graphics than I could easily buy, graphics card. And of course, it's deliberately made for gaming, right? Which your computer isn't. So they had, engineered it to be kind of better than I could do with a computer without spending a lot more than an Xbox, right? The Xbox 360. I think at the time the Xbox 360 was like $399 or something. Don't quote me on that. Maybe it was $299. It was $300-$400, and a really good gaming rig was going to cost like $1,500. I'm like, that's ridiculous. So what I decided to do was buy a less expensive laptop with mildly decent but not sort of hyper game quality graphics for, like, say, I don't know, $800 or something like that, while I bought an Xbox 360 for the gaming. So I had a console back in 08, 09, and I used it for a number of years. I mean, I moved into the house I am now in 2013, and I was still sometimes using the old Xbox games, although I didn't buy any new ones for a while. I played Dragon Age Origins and I think Dragon Age 2 on the Xbox 360. And I remember with Dragon Age, the first Dragon Age, complaining about the control system with the NPCs and everything to my best friend, and him saying, "What are you talking about? Like you can just zoom out and control them like a normal party, like if you were in, Baldur's Gate or something, original Baldur's Gate." And I said, "No, you can't." And he said, "Yes, you can." Well, it turns out on the computer you could, but on the console you couldn't. Another thing that made me buy this console was I had bought Mass Effect for the computer, and it was absolutely horrible. On my PC, I guess my computer did not have a good enough RAM and graphics card to run it. A lot of computers didn't. And somebody said, "Oh, it runs great on the console." So that was another reason to buy it. So I played Dragon Age when it came out, and Mass Effect, Dragon Age 1 and 2, Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3 on the console. Um, that's where I got Top Spin 4, which is to this day probably one of the best tennis games I've ever played. Although Tennis Elbow 4, something magical about 4 with tennis. I don't know why. Maybe because there's 4 points to a game, right? 15, 30, 40 game. I don't know, but Tennis Elbow 4 is my current sports game that I'm playing on my PC, and it's actually quite nice. And I have an Xbox controller for my PC now because I'm used to Xbox. And so I had the Xbox 360 for about 4 years. Eventually, in, I don't know, 2012 or something, I finally caved in and I bought myself a really good gaming rig computer, and it was better than the Xbox. And I think I bought it because there were certain games I wanted to play that you couldn't play on the Xbox 360. And the Xbox was getting a little long in the tooth, and, that's the way these things go. They're sort of planned obsolescence. You don't get to use them forever. And so, um, where's my wolf? Buddy, you're supposed to be helping me. So I'm no stranger to the consoles, and I do like them. So now, fast forward to today. I have a computer that is closing in on 5 years old, and my plan was to probably buy a new gaming rig for probably close to $2,000 because that's about what they cost these days. Sometime in the summer or fall this year, because it's going to hit about 5 years, and I have a liquid cooled computer, and what I read is that most of the time the tubes that contain the liquid in the liquid cooled computer last 5 or 6 years, and then they're going to probably spring leaks and stuff, and you're either going to have to replace the liquid cooling system or get a new machine or what have you. So I figured, okay, well, at 5 years, it's enough, and I'll get another computer. But in the meantime, I noticed one of my favorite games on the console, on the Xbox 360, was NCAA football. I think it was 2009, 6, something like that. I really liked that game. I enjoyed the career mode where you could just pick one player and you play, 4 seasons, freshman to senior year, and you only play your position. So you don't really have a lot of influence on the game itself. You can't call plays if you're not the quarterback. You can't decide who the quarterback throws to and stuff like this. And I think I played one season as a running back and one season as a quarterback, and I think I did part of a season as a wide receiver. I had a lot of trouble with the defense because in that edition of NCAA football, which is like Madden but for college, right? In that edition of it, unfortunately, you couldn't change the camera angle in the what they call the Road to Glory, which is the career mode for the individual player that you're playing. You had to basically you like whatever the camera angle was, and I don't remember what it was now. You couldn't change it, and I struggled on defense with that camera angle. And so I was never able to play defensive players, and I kind of got frustrated because I wanted to try like a linebacker or a cornerback or safety or something. And for whatever reason, you couldn't change the camera angles, and I really struggled with that. So I stopped playing it. But I really liked that game. So fast forward to today. There's College Football 2025, made by the same company. There's been a couple of iterations in between. And Where's this guy? Um, where are you? Um, it turns out, from what I can see, you in fact can change camera angles now on defense, and the graphics are better, and it looks like a pretty cool system. And you can also play Dynasty mode and create your own team, and you can take over any team you want. So, like, I can take over the, I don't know, the UCLA Bruins or the Colorado Buffaloes or the Wyoming Cowboys, what have you, and um, you can run them for 10 years or something in Dynasty mode. It's a lot of fun. So, I was like, okay, I could buy that for my computer, but it turns out it's only available on console, either Xbox or PlayStation. And there was another game I was looking at that actually got me started on this called The Show, which is baseball. It's like Major League Baseball. And that also looked pretty cool and is only available on the console. So I started thinking, well, instead of buying a new computer, it's possible I could do what I did in 2009 and buy a console for gaming and use this computer, till it dies, and then buy a laptop or something. And maybe I'll do that. I don't know. I've been thinking about getting myself a console. If I do, it would probably be a PlayStation, not an Xbox. Um, and yeah, they're pretty expensive. They're like $500 now, which is ridiculous. But it's a lot cheaper than a computer, right? And to build a gaming rig would cost 3 or 4 times that. And so, and you'd be lucky if it was as good as the PS5 or whatever. And so, yeah, so I'm thinking about doing that. But as I've been looking into things, this is what brings this up, because we're talking about games and talking about sort of the politics, quote unquote, of the gaming world. Let's just take a look at this map here. What are we doing? We got to go to the other side. While I was looking into this game, I already have like an Electronic Arts account, of course, because who doesn't? And you can go there and design your own team. And I thought, well, wouldn't it be cool? Wouldn't it be just freaking awesome if I could create the ETU Ravens from the East Texas University game? Oh, we died. I over-aggroed. Wouldn't it be cool if I could create the East Texas University Ravens? Oh, we got to get out of here now. Well, at least we're right here. Not too bad. From role-playing game. And I even thought, I could create Ron Tagath, who is one of the characters from the ETU show on the Saving Throw channel that I watched and loved for 4 seasons. And that might be pretty cool. I could do that. And so I designed a whole set of uniforms, and I imported some images from the actual book. And it's giving me all this crap about using copyrighted images. And I'm like, why do they care? I'm just going to put it on my PlayStation and play it. I'm not going to make it public. Well, it turns out you can't do it privately. And this is one of the things that aggravates me, right? Instead of saying I'll just download it to my account and play it, you have to make it public, because the team builder stuff where you build teams, invent your own colleges and stuff, that only works. This thing always misses. Why did it miss? I don't know. That thing only works if you're playing in basically online mode, right? You can't use an invented team that you got in the team builder. You cannot use it on offline Dynasty mode. You can play offline, but you can't use your built team. And that's why all of this stuff has to obey copyright rules and everything else, because if you because it's gonna you kind of have to do it online. What is going on here? Why are these guys? How did I over aggro again? Alright, well, that's what inspirations are for. You get out of my way. So yeah, this is one of these things that just annoys me, right? Because there's absolutely no reason that this needs to be online. It reminds me of AO Tennis 2, right? In order to play by yourself solo on your computer, you have to go online and authenticate with their servers. Which means that when they decide to stop supporting the game and shut down their online servers, which are only there for matchmaking purposes so that you can play PvP, right? When they decide to stop supporting that, I will not be able to play AO Tennis 2 solo on my computer, even though I own the game, because they stopped supporting it with their servers. So this business of gaming companies forcing you to be online, just for the bleep of it, because it does absolutely nothing for them. I mean, I think they believe in some stupid, twisted way that this is somehow preventing you from pirating their game. But given that like the game is on Steam, you can't pirate it from Steam anyway because you're on Steam, right? So, this stuff just so annoys me. But to a degree, my point here is that this is what I think. That's what you want to talk about. You want to talk about quote unquote politics in gaming. Talk about game politics like that. The sort of politics of like how they decide whether to make a game online or not, and whether it's stupid that they do. Talk about that. Don't talk about real world issues like gun control or the death penalty or anything like that in the real world. It's not worth risking your friends over. Just like I don't find it worth risking my channel over, right? If I start talking about real world politics, what'll happen is half the people who watch the channel will agree with me and be like, yeah, it's about time you said stuff about this. And the other half of the people like, I'm never going to watch them again because I don't like that, right? So, yeah, just avoid that. Talk about games, and you're safe usually. I mean, look, there are people who can't handle anyone who disagrees with them ever about anything. And those people, yeah, almost anything you talk about, you're going to risk an argument. But you probably already know who those people are, and either you're not friends with them or you've learned how to deal with them and avoid arguments, right? Man, what is with this room and the aggroing? I don't feel like I've been that careless. And my guess is this whole room isn't going to yield anything, and I've missed something back here. But we'll see. I will say this controller makes the annoying enemies so much less annoying because I can just mind control them or hold them, and they can't do their annoying thing like the nervous spectral demons cannot do the like insane debuffing. Not that I hit anything anyway, I've been missing like crazy, but yeah, these guys have a really long aggro range. And a huge amount of deflection. Okay, so there's still some guys in here, it looks like. Dampening field. So what's the dampening field? Teleport up there. Dampening field. So is this preventing us from getting out, I guess? We couldn't teleport out. So obviously nothing in there, but there's somebody over here. Okay. Come on with me, wolf. Let's go. Where are you? This wolf is so stupid. It's gotten lost a number of times. Oh, guys, gosh, let's do this. So what do? I finished Moonbeam at level 39 and added another slot to Living Shadows. We got actually one set enhancer. I'm hoping to get the rest of this one. Executioner's Contract, it doesn't seem like it's that hard to get hold of. So for now, I just threw it in as an extra damage, and we'll see where we go. This one, I'm going to put triple damages on. Everything else is slotted out pretty nicely. Mostly we have IOs now. And I have a bunch of partial sets, but nothing I felt like it's worth constructing at this point. And I don't know if I'm going to worry about sets with this character because, um, we're not uh, playing him a lot, right? We're online, so I don't think it really matters. All right, let's go up here. This kind of terrain is actually super annoying with teleport. There's our guy. He must have flown back up here when I went down to get the last two guys. And that's our mission, guys. So I want to point out, we're getting double XP. What's going on here? So it looks like the double XP, I'm not getting any influence? Is that what happens with double XP? That's interesting. Is that what it says? Influence gain is reduced by 100%. I see. So they're basically just swapping influence for XP. Well, that's fine. We don't. I mean, guys, we have 6 million influence, and we can trade it down from other characters anyway. Let's head on outside, and we'll wrap up this episode. Head to the train station, where we'll finish up. So, folks, the thrust of this episode has been to just try to keep the real world stuff out of the game. Try not, as a GM, to make any direct allegories to the real world, and especially don't talk about it at the table. It's only going to lead to potential hard feelings from people who don't agree, and sometimes people get really offended. I mean, look, there are people who can't take it when you say you don't like a movie that they liked, guys. There are people who can't take it when you say when someone says I don't like a book that you liked. There are people who can't take it when you don't like a game they liked. I mean, you've all probably seen it yourselves. You go onto a game forum, you say I don't like the way this new update works, and everybody jumps on you. And then there's a big flame war between the people who like the update and the people who don't. D&D 2024, who likes it and who doesn't? Flame wars, right? Now imagine when it's about the real world, something important and not a game. So the best thing to do is, look, if you want to keep your game group together and you want to keep playing the game with these people who like role-playing games the way you do, like the same role-playing game that you do, play on the same night as you do, and have the same gaming style as you do, recognize how precious it is to have 4 or 5 people who all can do all 4 of those things at the same time with you. That is precious. That is rare. Do not throw it away so that you can make your point about some political issue of the day. Because, guys, the political issue of today will be irrelevant in a year or two, but the game group could be around for a decade if you nurture it and you don't do anything to destroy it. Until next time, guys, I am Scrapperlock, and this has been City of Heroes.